1. Spiro Agnew, Vice President. Spiro Agnew's downfall is one of the most shocking in American political history, as he remains the only vice president to resign due to criminal charges. Before joining Richard Nixon's ticket, Agnew had cultivated a reputation as a tough, law-and-order governor of Maryland. However, behind this public persona, he was running a simple but effective bribery scheme. He demanded that contractors pay him kickbacks in exchange for receiving lucrative state government contracts. Astonishingly, this pattern of corruption did not stop when he ascended to the vice presidency. Even from his office in the White House, Agnew continued to accept envelopes filled with cash from the very same contractors. When federal investigators uncovered the scheme, the evidence was overwhelming. Facing the certainty of a conviction and a lengthy prison sentence, Agnew struck a deal. On October 10, 1973, he resigned from his office in disgrace, pleading no contest to a single charge of tax evasion to avoid further prosecution for bribery. His fall from the nation's second-highest office exposed a level of greed that stunned the American public. 2. Richard Nixon, President No. List of political scandals is complete without Richard Nixon, the only president in United States history to resign from office. His downfall is encapsulated by a single word: Watergate. It all began in 1972 with a seemingly minor break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters located in the Watergate Hotel complex. But the true crime wasn't the burglary itself. It was the extensive and illegal cover-up operation that was directed from the highest levels of the White House. As investigators began to connect the burglars to his re-election campaign, President Nixon and his top aides launched a massive conspiracy to obstruct the investigation. They used the power of the presidency to lie to the FBI and the American public, destroyed evidence, and used government agencies to punish their political enemies. The discovery of a secret taping system in the Oval Office proved to be Nixon's undoing. These tapes provided undeniable proof of his involvement in the cover-up. Facing certain impeachment by the House and conviction by the Senate, Richard Nixon announced his resignation on August 8, 1974, leaving a legacy of distrust and forever changing the relationship between the American people and the presidency. 3. Albert B. Fall, Secretary of the Interior. The Teapot Dome scandal of the 1920s remains a landmark case of government corruption, and at its center was Albert B. Fall, the Secretary of the Interior under President Warren G. Harding. Fall's crime was as simple as it was audacious. He decided to sell off the nation's valuable resources to the highest bidder. He convinced President Harding to transfer control of federal oil reserves in Teapot Dome, Wyoming, and 2 other locations in California from the U.S. Navy to his own department. These reserves were meant to be a strategic fuel supply for the military. Once he had control, Fall wasted no time. He secretly leased the exclusive drilling rights for these oil-rich lands to 2 powerful oil magnates, Harry Sinclair and Edward Doheny. In exchange for this immense favor, Fall was handsomely rewarded with what would be worth millions of dollars today, receiving cash, livestock for his ranch, and large, interest-free personal loans. When the scheme was exposed, it caused a national outrage. After years of investigation and trials, Albert B. Fall was convicted of accepting bribes, earning him the notorious distinction of being the first U.S. cabinet member to be sentenced to prison for a felony committed while in office. 4. Rod Blagojevich, Governor of Illinois. Rod Blagojevich's story is a stunning example of how arrogance and greed can lead to a spectacular political downfall. As the governor of Illinois, he found himself in a position of immense power when Senator Barack Obama was elected president in 2008, leaving his Senate seat vacant. It was Blagojevich's legal duty to appoint a successor to serve out the term. However, instead of treating this as a solemn public responsibility, he saw it as a personal lottery ticket. In what federal prosecutors would later describe as a political corruption crime spree, Blagojevich was caught on secret FBI wiretaps trying to sell the Senate seat to the highest bidder. He openly discussed trading the appointment for a high-paying job, a cabinet position for himself, or large campaign contributions. In one now infamous recording, he described the Senate seat as a fucking golden thing that he would not give up for nothing. His brazen attempts to leverage his official power for personal enrichment led to his swift impeachment and removal from office by the Illinois state legislature. He was later convicted on multiple federal corruption charges and sentenced to 14 years in prison, his case becoming a textbook example of modern political corruption. 5. Bob Menendez, U.S. Senator. The case of Bob Menendez is a shocking and recent example of corruption reaching the highest echelons of the U.S. Senate. As a long-serving senator from New Jersey and the powerful chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Menendez wielded immense influence over American foreign policy. However, federal prosecutors argued that he was not using that influence to serve the interests of the United States, but rather those of foreign governments and his own personal greed. The allegations were stunningly brazen. Investigators discovered hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash stuffed into envelopes and hidden in his jackets, as well as gold bars and a luxury Mercedes-Benz convertible. The prosecution successfully argued that these were not gifts, but bribes given in exchange for Menendez's official actions. He was accused of using his position to benefit the governments of Egypt and Qatar, including attempts to interfere with criminal investigations and steer military aid. In July 2024, his long political career came to a crashing halt when a jury found him guilty on multiple counts of bribery and acting as an unregistered foreign agent, marking a breathtaking betrayal of public trust by one of the nation's most senior lawmakers. 6. Duke Cunningham. U.S. Representative Duke Cunningham crafted a public image as the ultimate American patriot. A decorated Top Gun fighter pilot from the Vietnam War, he transitioned into politics and became a long-serving congressman for California. He secured a powerful seat on the House Appropriations Committee, the body that decides where billions of taxpayer dollars are spent, particularly on national defense. He presented himself as a fierce advocate for a strong military, but in reality, he was using his position to orchestrate one of the most audacious bribery schemes in congressional history. Behind the scenes, Cunningham was selling his office to the highest bidders. In exchange for steering massive and overpriced government contracts to specific defense contractors, he received an astonishing $2.4 million in bribes. His corruption wasn't subtle. He was given cash, a Rolls-Royce, a yacht he named the Duke Stir, and had his mansion's mortgage paid off. His greed was so insatiable that he even had a bribe menu, listing specific official acts next to the price he demanded for them. When the FBI uncovered his scheme, the evidence was undeniable. In 2005, Cunningham resigned in disgrace and was sentenced to over 8 years in prison, his fall from hero to convict serving as a stark lesson in political greed.